Rebel Yell Podcast, Trib Live High School Sports Network. Here to salute our Week 10 or opening night of the WPIAL playoffs, Team of the Week. There were, and it's probably around normal, 25 teams that 25 schools, I should say, that changed head coaches. It's usually around there, sometimes higher, sometimes it's lower. But right now, heading into the quarterfinals / semifinals, depending on what class you're talking about, second weekend of the district playoffs, only two first-year coaches remain alive. One of them is not really a first-year coach, but it's his first year at Bishop Canavan after years at Steel Valley, some championships at Steel Valley. Rod Steele, also formerly of West Mifflin. So he's not a new coach, but our guest is, and he is doing some amazing things at his alma mater. We welcome in Tony Battaglini, first-year coach of the Frazier Commodores, the number 11 seed, the fourth-place team out of the Eastern Conference, victors at California on Friday. Man, I'm struggling as to where to start because there are so many kind of juicy storylines. First of all, Tony, congratulations on the success, and we appreciate your time.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me.
You've been a long-time assistant. We were just talking about that before we got going. After your playing days, you played at Frazier in the mid-2000s. You went to Cal U to continue your football career. Had the coaching itch, so you scratched. You were back at Frazier for a couple of years, a year at Bell Vernon, and most recently at Thomas Jefferson. A year ago, when you guys were making a run at a WPIAL championship, did you think you would be a head coach of a WPIAL school 1 year later?
No, not at all. We were just so wrapped up in that WPIAL championship run with those. That was an awesome group of kids we had last year. And I mean, there was never a thought of anything else, really.
So was it your alma mater that kind of drew your attention, or had you been, sort of open to look at potential jobs here, there, and anywhere?
So, I mean, I just, as always, you kind of keep tabs on your alma mater and see what those guys are doing. And, I've always stayed close with people from there. And after the season was over, I just so happened to run into the athletic director at Frazier, Mandy Hartman, who does she's a great volleyball coach down there.
Right.
But we talked and she said that, she thought it'd be a great opportunity. And once we discussed it for a while, I was kind of sold on that.
So you take over, teams, and here are the numbers, and they're not kind, to be honest with you. Since 2021, when the Commodores had a winless season, 0-5 in conference, 0-9 overall, the team has been 3-16. So the seniors on this team coming into 2025, 3-16 conference record, 4-26 overall. So there's not a whole lot of feel good coming into your first camp. Coaches talk all the time that have successfully, and it's not easy. Boy, it's not easy, but have successfully been able to help change the culture of a program. What are some of the things early on that you did well before August practice to try to do exactly that, change the culture of Frazier football?
So, I think one of the real benefits of taking a job at a place like, at your alma mater and somewhere you're familiar with is, I think one of the biggest things for first year coaches is selling the product, getting buy-in and stuff like that. But I think, with the familiarity that was there between myself, some of the kids, like I'd worked out with some of those kids in the summer, just, helping them out and doing some stuff like that. And with the staff that I brought in, I think it was pretty easy for the kids to just, put their heads down and just go to work, and do the things that we asked them to do. There wasn't really this, hey, we got to sell this product and we got to get these kids to buy in. It was from day one that they wanted to win. They're hungry. Like you said, the numbers haven't been great. And this senior class, which is, I mean, it's it's loaded with talented players and that have just, for lack of better words, have just struggled over the last 3 years, and they were hungry, and they wanted to go to work.
You mentioned assembling a staff, and that's very, very important for a first year head coach. You want to get guys that you can lean on because you're not going to know or have all the answers. Was that a difficult process? Was it an easy process for you?
It was pretty easy because there were a lot of guys that were interested, in doing something different, and it actually worked out that, with Matt, it was kind of like the timing with Matt at Bell Vernon resigning when he did. I was able to pick it's in close proximity to Frazier, and I was able to get two great guys from there. I got Jeff Ogrodowski, who's our defense coordinator, and I mean he's phenomenal. He's unreal. I mean, he does a great job. So much attention to detail, and he's been a huge part of what we've been able to do. And Coach Zach Oregon from there as well. And if you look, top to bottom with this staff, I mean, it's got a lot of WPIAL championship experience, state championship experience. So that kind of goes back to the selling the product to the kids. It wasn't really hard for them to buy in when they know, what the staff is bringing.
Okay, there's buy-in, and that's not always easy, but you explained that, having known them, some of them, that it made it easier, and that this senior group wanted a change. They wanted, a positive spin on what had been a rough first 3 years of their high school career. Do you, as a coach, is one of the things you do once you get going, do you go back, and you and some of your staff, do you go back and look at old film to see, okay, why weren't we able to get why weren't they, the former staff, able to get the most out of these kids? And then you start changing and developing things that you feel might enhance their talents?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was one of the first things that we did when I even started kind of kicking around the idea, was try to go find some film from last year and be like, okay, it's, you can be as good of a coach as you want to be, but if you don't have talent, that makes it very difficult for sure, and you just kind of go back and look like, okay, this quarterback can throw it. This running back runs hard. You look at Derek, and that was evident on film. And it was just kind of like, with us coming in there and putting them in situations where they can have success, they can play,
Going back and looking at what you guys were able to do during the regular season, Tony Battaglini, first-year coach of the Frazier Commodores, is with us here, our WPIAL Week 10 Team of the Week. It's sort of an interesting build to the success of this season. You start in Week 0 with a thriller, 83 points scored, defense be damned, against Summit Academy at home at your place. 43-40, you guys come away with the victory. You then the following week, that momentum doesn't carry over, as is the case most of the time. You lose to Mapletown in week 1, a 1-point loss, a little bit of a heartbreaker, and then you bounce back. Your final game before Eastern Conference play with a nice win over Carmichael's. And even before you get into conference play, did you feel that the pieces were coming together, just with the emotional week 0 victory, tough loss in week 1, but the bounce back that showed, hey, this team is resilient?
Yeah, for sure. That's the hardest part when trying to build something, as you and I were saying before, that like I knew we had talented kids, but it was, and I said it to our staff a bunch of times, like, it's how fast can we teach what we need to teach and get them up to speed, before we run out of time. Because obviously, the clock is ticking every single day that goes by when you're in those off-season workouts, and it's like we have to teach all of these things to these kids and try to teach them how to play football,
sure.
Especially the way we want to. And you could see that as the season has progressed, going just the out of conference games, like you said, with that Summit Academy game. I mean, that was crazy back and forth game, and we put ourselves in a hole. And and a lot of the stuff that we wanted the kids to do was brand new to them. And then, you see the Mapletown game where we just couldn't finish, and from being around for so long with good coaches and stuff like that, everyone preaches you have to finish, and we just couldn't do that just yet with that game. And then we bounced back, and I was super proud of the kids in that Carmichael's game because, you lose to Mapletown. That's one of the only teams that they beat the last couple of years,
Right.
and you lose that game, and that could have just been so deflating.
No question.
And I challenged the kids after that game. I said, this is going to show what type of men you are. I mean, we could just let this go and our season can be over.
Right.
It's because of this, and they bounced back.
That's a great point because I think that's, where you probably learned, we may have something here because, okay, week 0 fun, new coach, everything, new things, new system, and you produce such a wild game and exciting victory that when you have that deflating loss against a program that has struggled in the last couple of years, it's so easy to just revert, right? Go back to old bad habits. And the fact that they didn't says a lot. And that's not the only time that they showed off their resiliency. As we continue on, you start conference play, you get beat up pretty good by Jeanette. Same situation with Clairton. You end up yielding like 133 points in those 2 losses to the Jayhawks and the Bears. But I guess your job then is to just, hey, don't get deflated. Don't get down. It's still a lot of football left. And while that message may go in one ear, not the other, after yielding 130 some points and 2 losses, this team again showed their moxie. And I thought, from an outsider, that win that following week against Brentwood, a playoff team a year ago, was massive. And that, again, yeah, we're not there yet for Clairton, and we're not there yet for Jeanette, but let's go back to work. And they did, and it was a big win.
Right. I think that Brentwood game was definitely a turning point in the season for us because, once again, you look at what they've done in the past and where we are, they've never beat a team like Brentwood, like in the past couple of years, and I think that was a huge confidence builder for us. And even after Jeanette and Clairton and myself, our team, our staff, we knew, you're trying to, it's a rebuild in the first year. You're not on that level yet with Clairton, with Jeanette. I mean, those teams are perennial winners and playoff teams. And, and I told them after the Clairton game, so we were halfway through the season, 5 games. And I told the kids, these next 5 games are essentially playoff games for us. Approach it as a brand new season. Those first 5 games are to kind of, work out everything. And like you said, brand new stuff. It's fun. It's, doing all kinds of different things. But once we were able to settle in, I think you could see in those last 5 games and really kind of figure out who we are and what we want to do. I think that's kind of been the turning point.
And what a finish, because after the Brentwood victory, which is huge, again, another setback against the Eastern Conference runner-up this year, the Leechburg Blue Devils. So you're sitting there at 1-3 in the conference, 3-5, I believe, overall, and you have 3 games left, and you guys go on a big-time run, a 21-point victory over Riverview that I think really took the air out of their balloon this season. Then the thrilling victory over Greensburg Central Catholic in week 8 that really put you in a good spot, and then you take care of business against a struggling Springdale team. What stood out the most in those final 3 games of the regular season, all victories that put you guys in position for a playoff spot?
Yeah, I really think it was like just making, well, I would say really probably 2 things. We started to do some things in those last games that winning teams do. We were converting on 3rd down all the time. We were getting ourselves in good situation where we were in 3rd and short, and we were able to convert that. There was 2 occasions, I think, in the GCC game where we converted huge 4th downs and we made a big stop. And I think, just making those plays that you see winning teams make, I think that's especially in these last 3 or 4 games now, that's where you've really been able to see the big difference between us. We don't commit a lot of penalties, especially pre-snap penalties. We're doing things on time and staying on schedule. And I think the other thing is, as always in a season, you like to see your defense get better from start to finish. And I think that's kind of where we've grown the most. Not that we've coached it any differently, but it took a while to teach the kids, this is what we mean when we say set the edge, or this is what we mean when we say we want you to wrong shoulder this.
Sure.
And I think now they're finally figuring that out. And it's funny, Derek Diamond said to me the other day, he's like, I can't believe the season's almost over. I'm finally learning how to play football. I was like, yeah, well, it goes quick. So
yeah, you wish you had this group of seniors, which is a special group, obviously, with what they've been able to do here this year after some adversity their first few years. You wish you could hit a reset button and
right.
have them coming back for another 2 or 3 years.
Sure.
But still, there's magic to be had. We'll talk about the playoff game in a moment. Are you one of those coaches where either when you were an assistant or now as a head coach, get together with your fellow coaches and try to figure out what the WPIAL had to do? Because again, you guys were on the bubble, 4th place. You guys put yourself in a very good position with the strong finish, including the victory over Greensburg Central Catholic, which also happened to receive a wild card. But you had to feel pretty good. Did you guys try to figure things out, or did you just say, we'll just wait and see what happens?
Just like everybody else does, we're on the whiteboard trying to figure, okay, we can get this seed, that seed, what has to happen here, all the hypotheticals, and I did think after the GCC win, we were going to have a pretty good shot of getting in, but you never really want to put your fate in someone else's hands, and I told that to the kids going into the Springdale game, we're still not in, we have to win, and then hopefully see something in you, because to be honest, I just kept looking back at that Mapletown game saying that's going to haunt me forever. Just if that kept us out, that would have been pretty upsetting.
Yeah, well, it didn't. You guys get the number 11 seed, and you head to California, the Tri-County South Conference champions. Only one loss in the season for California. You mentioned Coach Jeff, your defensive coordinator, and what a job. The one thing, Derek's a big boy. Derek Diamond, your lead runner. Malachi Peak is a big boy, the top running back for California. In fact, he was coming off a game in the big showdown in week 9, 270 yards in the victory over Jefferson Morgan. He's obviously getting a lot of your attention. What was the key to keeping him in check?
So, we knew we were going to have to put a lot of guys on the line of scrimmage and there's a little bit of familiarity there with Coach Woods at Cal too, because of just him being at best center and within the Tri-County South and all that stuff. And he's friends with guys on our staff. And really, it's funny when you look at them and you look at us, there's a ton of similarities there. There's not a whole lot of teams that go under center and run the football, and they're one, and so are we. And we knew we were gonna have to put a lot of guys on the line of scrimmage, and that was the key, was stopping him. And he ended up leaving the game early, and you hate to see that, but that was gonna have to be our focal point to win that game.
Special weapon that obviously once they lost him, kind of set them back. But your weapons on offense were getting it done. Go on the road, first playoff game in this group's history. A lot of reasons to be nervous, a lot of reasons to be tight, yet you guys come out and once in the first quarter, twice in the second quarter, Brady Seacrest finds Chase Fulmer 7 yards, 32 yards, 64 yards, and before you know it, you guys are up 18-0. Especially as a former quarterback, you had to be feeling pretty good with what you were seeing there throughout most of that first half.
Yeah, for sure. And we go into every game saying, we're going to let the defense kind of dictate what we do. We have it's great to have a bell cow like Derek, and you can hand him the ball 40 times. But I mean, there were points in time where they had 9 guys in the box, up on the line of scrimmage, and we'll take our shots with Chase all day long, with him, and Brady threw 3 great passes to him, and we have some other guys too. Like if we have to play in the pass game, we'll play in the pass game.
Yeah.
It's good teams win playoff games by running the football.
Yeah, especially this time of year. But Brady has had some success down the stretch now during this 4-game win streak. Threw for 118 yards against California and the 3 touchdowns I mentioned. You get one more touchdown in the third quarter that's kind of was a little bit of the icing on the cake. Derek Diamond, who rushed for 98 yards, gets the score. So it's a I think the teams, there are teams, and because Thomas Jefferson, Chirp has a history of just handing it off to the same guy about 40 times. Tyler Eber in recent years, Quentin Hill. My coworkers razzed me because I was on the PA at then Heinz Field, and Quentin Hill. Like I just kept saying Quentin Hill on the carry, Quentin Hill on the carry.
That was that Newcastle game we played. Q, he had a ton of carries in that game. Yeah.
But so, it's one thing to just say, this is what we're doing, stop us. But it does help to be able to, if, they start crowding the box, because Derek's having some success, that you can go to the air if need be.
Right. And Brady's done a great job with that all year. He doesn't get a ton of opportunities. He's not a kid that's going to get to throw the ball 25 times a game. But, I mean, if he throws it 12, he has a pretty high completion percentage. And once you get in the hands of, we have like with Chase, with Lincoln Dye, I mean, those guys are all big play guys. Lincoln had 2 huge touchdowns in that GCC game. So, I mean, if you want to try to take one of those guys away, then we can go somewhere else. Or, if you're going to try to take the pass game away, then by all means, we'll run it 40 times with Derek for sure.
Has Brady promised you a spot on Wheel of Fortune or American Idol with his uncle Ryan Seacrest at all? No.
Nah.
That hasn't happened yet.
I don't know if that relation's there or not. I'll have to get to meet him now.
Probably not, but nonetheless, it's nice to think about. It's got the one thing I love before we ask you about the next hurdle coming up with Bishop Canevin. The one thing I love in doing this especially for as long as I've done it, is I always call it the new blood. It's great to see programs that have struggled, been kicked in the teeth. Every cycle of players should enjoy at least one season, maybe not a championship season, maybe not even a playoff season, but one season where they have success and really get to walk around the school proud in their school uniform. The community, the school district, the high school, they've got to be going crazy with the success that you guys are having.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly, and especially being from there, seeing it, from that perspective as well. But I mean, it's been probably the best part of this, and I've said it all along to these kids that they deserve it. That's part of the reason why I made that decision to go there. Is you see it with what Chirp has built for 30 years. I mean, that's not a lot of people get to experience that
right.
Year after year after year after year. And like you said, I mean, it'd be nice for a kid to experience it once.
Right.
Every cycle, just to have some success. And what's really been cool is with the success of the girls sports in Frazier, with volleyball being the #1 seed and stuff like that, just seeing them all support each other. My kids are all at their games, their kids are all at our games. And it's just been a lot of
that's awesome
school spirit. It's been really cool.
Yeah, no, that's tremendous. And they get to be the big men on campus for at least another week, hopefully more. Big challenge though, Bishop Canevin. Crusaders, wow, what a offensive shootout on Friday against Greensburg Central Catholic. It was tied at 28, and then the Crusaders outscored the Centurions 22-7 in the fourth quarter to pull away. They are playing with half a quarterback, I guess you could say. Their transfer quarterback, who did so well during the regular season, ineligible for the playoffs, so their leading receiver, DeMar Olds, has gone back, and he's played some quarterback too. He gives them actually a different dimension back there. But I know it's still early in the process, but what about the challenge of the Crusaders?
So, just watching them early and just trying to get a feel for who they are and what they do, you see a lot of things that But once again, you do this for so long, you become familiar with, a lot of these same guys are doing this stuff. And with Rod over there, playing against West Mifflin for the last 10 years,
Right,
you
right.
do see a lot of similarities. And I'm sure he'll be familiar with what we do because, it's a lot of it looks like what we were doing at TJ and stuff like that, just with some different things. But, and even my coaches that I have from Bell Vernon are also familiar with that stuff from West Mifflin. So you see a lot of similar things there, but I mean, man, they're super athletic. They have a ton of athletes. And like you said, Luke, that quarterback, just watching him, he was a great player all year.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the GCC game from last night yet to see what that other kid did, but I mean, I know he's very athletic, being their leading receiver for sure. So I mean, it's going to be a huge challenge for our kids, and it's also a great opportunity.
Exciting days in Perryopolis. The Frazier Commodores, for the first time in 10 years, are playoff winners, and they want to, like they did in 2015, add a second postseason victory to the resume. They'll get a chance Friday when they take on Bishop Canevin. I asked this of coaches that are having these resurrection seasons. You're probably like a rock star now in that area. If you go shopping there in Perryopolis, will you not have to pay for groceries? Is that how that works?
Nah, I haven't made it to that level just yet. I'm still footing the bill for things.
Okay. All right. Well, just keep going. Keep working. You're a young
maybe,
man.
Maybe we can get this next one.
Yeah, and obviously another thing too, patience. Right. I mean, you've had, Bell Vernon, Thomas Jefferson, just top of the WPIL food chain as far as successful programs are concerned. And you sort of have a level of expectation every year, even though there's new kids, new faces, you have a level of expectation. Has that been the biggest thing that you've had to use here in 2025 is just being patient?
Oh, for sure. You look at it and it's like it does take you some time to adjust to the fact that, like, oh hey, we're not the favorite here. We're not favored to go in this game and probably
Yes.
win by 35 points. And every game's a dogfight. There are no easy games, especially in that conference that we play in. And I mean, that's definitely been one of the biggest challenges. But still, at the same time, it's been a ton of fun, especially seeing these kids and how rewarding it's been to them.
Yep. No matter what happens, Friday or beyond, it has been a successful season, and everybody involved, you, your staff, and the players especially, can hold their heads high. Our Week 10 WPIAL Team of the Week, and a lot of folks in the district, not just in Perryopolis, Fayette County. There's a lot of people that would like to see you guys have success this week and beyond. We appreciate it. Tony Battaglini, congratulations on all your success. Keep it going, my man.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it.
Tony Battaglini, first-year coach, and he's got the Commodores into the Class A quarterfinals coming up in Week 11. We thank him for joining us. We thank Chris Lackner, our producer. I am Don Rebel. We thank you for joining us. Keep it here on Trib HSSN every day. We'll get you ready for Week 11. It's the Rebel Yell podcast on the Trib Live High School Sports Network.